right, so as you come to a comfortable seat, take a moment to allow the quiet to enter into you. So can you let the clouds outside be nourishing and give you an opportunity to not have to shine outward, but to give yourself the opportunity to gaze inward. And see what it feels like to drop into your body, to allow some surrender, letting your shoulders relax, letting your groundedness of your pelvis feel its spaciousness and grounding. Notice your legs and see if you can just drop any tension you might feel in your legs and settle your femur bones toward the ground. Notice the angles of your pelvis and where you tend to weight bear. Are you a lefty or a righty weight bearer? And it could be just because you always put your legs in this way. So if you feel like you're heavily weighted in one sit bone or the other and can't adjust, try switching your legs for a moment and see if just that new, maybe uncomfortable, or not uncomfortable, but unfamiliar way of sitting with your legs gives you a different seat in your pelvis. And then from that place, rise upward through your spine like you're growing. Imagine how trees get their fluid from the soil, from their roots, where there's this action of lift through the trunk. So see if you can imagine the trunk of your body kind of having that upward flow of some slow pranic energy moving upward in your body. And land the crown over your spine in a state of efficiency. So kind of play around with all your angles and curves from pelvis to crown, where you land on a place of, oh, that's easeful. That feels comfortable and self-supporting. Allow your shoulders to soften. Come into a state of openness across your heart. And then let's invite the breath in. See if you can just make some pathways, some channels for breath. And just taking a few rounds of breath here, just noticing, just getting, aware of where the opportunity for breath lives in your lungs. Can you sense awakening and opening? Is there any kind of quiet place in your rib cage that can enliven and expand to allow the breath to move? And then we're going to start our practice today with a pranayamic technique that is very stimulating to the parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest, the easeful part of our nervous system where we relax. So how it works is that we just take in a breath and then another quick breath and then a sigh, exhale. And it can be through your mouth or through your nose on the exhale. So it could look it doesn't have to look exactly like this, but it could look something like this, where you have a breath in and then another little sip of breath on top of the breath, and then a long extended exhale. So when you start, try to just get yourself into a rhythm of this where you don't have to time anything. You don't have to worry about how long are my inhales or exhales, but just find a natural inhale and then another little bit of an inhale on top of that inhale, and then a nice release through the exhale. So don't pressure yourself to make your exhale super long. If you do this kind of breath, it'll naturally take its time. Your exhale will start to elongate without you having to think about it too much. You don't want to exhale so long that you feel gulping for your next breath in. And just see if you can get into that rhythm of a double inhale and a long exhale. Pay attention to that alignment that you've been focusing on and cultivating in your body so that you are self-supporting. Imagine that the exhale is like a deep sigh where you're just naturally letting the breath out. Nothing's rushed, nothing's held too long, just a nice easy pace of a breath in and then another little breath in on top of that breath in, and then a nice easy long exhale. Sometimes when we lengthen the inhale, we kind of find that ujjayi where we're kind of breathing in the back of our throat or back of our nose a little bit and kind of constricting the walls of the throat a little bit to slow the inhale down. Try not to do that. We're not doing ujjayi. It's just allowing the breath to come in through your nose, opening your sinuses, opening your lungs, another little breath on top, and then an exhale. If a pause at the end of the exhale naturally starts to arrive, let it be there. You don't have to have it, but if it arises and that feels natural and normal, just let that natural pause happen before your next in-breath. You might notice that the exhale feels like a sigh. Okay, so sometimes, we naturally sigh when we're trying to regulate our nervous system. If that ever happens to you, just let it. Try not to hold back when your body wants to sigh. All right, and then to complete this gentle pranayama, let's take a nice, big, full, long breath in, not a double breath, but just a single full inhale, and a long, steady exhale. And bring your hands together at your heart and offer an intention here for your practice. And then release the hands and find your way to your mat. As you stretch out on the ground, let's see what it feels like to keep your breath moving. So even though we're not doing that physiological sigh any longer, we can still steady our breath and be very aware that we're not holding our breath. Okay, so stretch your arms. yawn naturally occurs, or a pendiculation where you want to kind of hold the breath for a moment and squeeze, just let any natural inclinations arise. Okay, so let your practice kind of erupt from your body naturally, organically, intuitively, instead of prescription. And then always remember, you can follow me, you can not follow me. Okay, so this is your practice. Do what feels right to you, modify anything at all. Let's go ahead and bring our knees into your chest and feel a little bit of rocking here, back and forth. Nice, easeful state on your sacrum. Let that rocking give another message to the nervous system that all is well. So much cueing that we get through the day. Our nervous system is always paying attention to the state of affairs that we're in, both our external stimuli and our internal stimuli. Let's hang on to the knees and circle. Pay attention to the sacrum. Relax through the hip flexors. And then move your legs in the other direction, feeling that rolling across your sacrum. And then we'll open up the knees and bring your knees back in. Just feeling your way. And then right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, and we'll move around in your ankles. Wiggle through your toes, roll around in your feet. Enjoy the freedom that you have here. Remembering how important caring for our ankles and our feet is for our well-being, for our stability, for our mobility. Grab that right knee and cross it over to the left and enjoy a stretch open into a twist. Let your chest expand and breathe deeply. And then bring that knee back into your chest. Pick up your head, a snug little ball. And then we'll switch. Put your head down, left knee into your chest, right leg long on the ground, and find your feet again. See if you can be aware of some movement or some opening and some little tiny nook and cranny in the foot that you haven't found yet. Remember how many bones you have, so many bones in your feet. Nice good squeeze of that knee, and then we'll cross the left knee over to the right and twist open here. Breathing deeply, stretching through your chest. Enjoy that open heart. And we'll come back around to the center. Bring that knee in, pick up your head, a snug squeeze, and then release your leg out to a star. Expand open through your legs. Roll around in your wrists and your ankles. Wiggle your fingers and your toes, touching the edges of your body. And a deep breath. As you exhale, draw the knees into the chest. Again, big breath in, expand open. A full breath out, close in. And one more time, and this time we will do a little pendiculation, so expand open. Take a deep breath, hold your breath, and squeeze everything you can squeeze, your face, your fists, your feet, and everything in between. And then release that breath, melt into the ground. Okay, a deep inhale, lengthen. And as you exhale, draw your knees in, pick up your head, all your breath out, hold your out breath, and squeeze everything you can. And then release your head down onto the ground. Normal breath, return to your breath. Open your hands out to the side, and let's just windshield wiper our knees left and right here. Finding some breath with your movement. And we'll cross the right knee over to the left. Pick up your left foot and put it on the outside of your right knee. And you can always wedge a block underneath either leg if it's a little too much for your back to go into this depth of motion for your back. Okay, so opening up the hip flexor of that right leg a little bit, stretching. You know, this may not feel like a IT band stretch, but it's an opening for the tops of the quads, the TFL, the muscle that the IT bands the tendon for. There's a lot of opening that happens in the front of the hip here. How's your breathing? And then come back to neutral and put your feet onto the ground. Lift up your hips and give your hips a shake. And then we'll put our hips back down, drop to the right, pick up your right foot and put it on the outside of your left knee. You can take a block and wedge it anywhere underneath your legs if you need it. Check in with your back and make sure it's able to stay stable and okay here. And find the breath. And notice if the two sides feel similarly or not. It's amazing how we can find those hidden pockets that we get tight in. So, you know, notice at the front of your hip on one side is tighter than the other. All right, and then come back to center. Bring your knees into your chest. Rock a little bit on your sacrum, a little bit of that whole body rocking left and right. And then we'll grab our feet and come to a happy baby pose, dropping the knees down toward the ribs, opening up the low back, kind of sensing if you took any tension there from that twist that we just did. And then release your feet down onto the ground. Grab a block and stick it between your legs. It can be at your knees, mid-width, or at your top of your thighs, narrower width. Kind of find whatever is comfortable for you. And then take a deep breath in and lift up into a bridge. Climb up onto the tops of the shoulders and find the gathering of your glutes onto your sacrum. See if you can hug the back muscles, the glutes, the hamstrings, everything in the back body is starting to turn on a little bit. Have your arms press into the ground to help you engage through the back. Root the four corners of your feet and breathe. And then we'll lower the pelvis back down. Okay. Bring your knees up in the air. Take the block at the mid-width, okay, in between your knees now. And reverse your tabletop. So our feet are up in the air at right angles. And just find this pose for a moment, stabilizing your core. Bring your arms out at the sides and just notice here, knitting the ribs a little bit down, but still mobile. So you don't want to grip your core so much where you can't breathe. So we're still finding a little bit of mobility with the breath. And then when you're ready, reach the arms overhead and find that stability in the center of your body. A nice gentle hug. You don't have to give it everything you got onto that block, but we're stabilizing. So we're feeling the inner thighs, the pelvic floor, and the core, and the back of our body all in unison. And then relax your arms down and bring them back out to the sides. And we'll just gently drop our knees with the block still over to the left and back up and over to the right. Now your movement can be all the way down to your elbow, or your movement can be small and you just kind of drop your knees over left and right a few inches off midline. So kind of just find the passage that's good for your body. We're turning on the core of the body here, finding your breath. Try to see what it feels like to exhale on the way down and inhale on the way up, and just see how that feels. Nice and stable with that block between your knees. All right, and then if you started on the right, and with the left. If you started on the left, and with the right. And we'll put our feet down onto the ground. Still keep the block right where it is for a moment. And just a nice gentle hugging of the blocks. See if you can feel that turning on of the low belly. Breath in, release. Breath out, hug the block, engage the core. Breath in, release. Learn how to release the core as much as you learn how to engage the core. So we don't want our core to be on lockdown mode. I can't believe that I have heard so many times in the past where a yoga teacher that I've studied with has said Mula Bandha 24/7, that pelvic floor lock 24/7. No, please don't do that. We want to have mobility. We want to be able to release and engage. If you're always a closed fist or if you're always an open fist, you are not very mobile. Okay, so we want to have mobility in the core that links with the breath. Notice when you do this, just the simple act of squeezing the block and releasing the block on the breath. Which do you have a harder time with? Is recruitment difficult for you or is release difficult for you? All right, and then we'll release the block. Stretch your body out to a star one more time. Feel your feet, wiggle your fingers, toes, wrists, ankles. And then as your exhale comes, draw your knees into your chest and we'll roll to our side. Come up onto your hands and your knees and start to move your body with your breath, arching and rounding the spine. So you might notice that your core, your low back, your pelvis is very awake. So see what you can do to just stretch and mobilize now. Find some ease and some freedom. Kind of check in with your body and notice if there's any place that you're taking some tension that you don't need to. And then wag your tail. Just take a little time to swish your hips left and right. Maybe your feet wag too. All right, and then find neutral. Okay, and grab that block again. And we're going to stick it between our shins, mid-width between our shins. Now, if you like wider, you can take wider as well, but try the middle width in between your shins and see if that feels, kind of neutral to you. All right, now when we inhale, we're gonna arch our back, lift the tail, release tension on that block. And as you exhale, hug the block, round the spine, feel that pelvic floor engage, and then just move with the breath. So learn to release as much as you learn to engage. It's the capacity to have both that really nourishes our stability. We don't always need to be engaged, but we want to be able to engage when we need to. Okay, so hugging the block, see if you can sense how the inner line of the legs, the inner thighs, all the way down to the inner calves relate to the pelvic floor. How's the breath as you move? Inhaling, arching, widening the sit bones, releasing the pelvic floor and core. Exhaling, rounding the spine a little bit, pelvic floor engages. Hug the block. All right. Now see what you can do to lift into a dog pose with that block still there. I know this is not our normal first dog pose, but just see what it feels like to have that sense of stability. You know how sometimes I have you drag the feet apart in this pose to find the outer hips? Let's see if we can hug the block to find the inner line and then drag your feet apart to find the outer line of your legs. And can you do both at the same time? Breathing in, breathing out. All right, and then we'll come back down onto our knees. Take the block out of there for a moment. Come down onto your back. One more time, we'll stick the block in between our shins, reverse that tabletop. So now instead of between our knees, take the block between your shins. We're a little further away from the pelvic floor. So see what it feels like to have your arms out to the sides, hugging that block, and see if you can have that same commitment of the core and pelvic floor that we did when the block was higher. All right, and again, dropping the knees over to the left and coming back up. Now, I know for me, for my body, when I have the block between my shins, I can't go as far over to the side and still maintain my stability. So maybe that's true for you, maybe it's not, but just pay attention. Don't assume that your range within your range of motion while staying stable is the same, hugging the shins as it was hugging the knees. How's the breath? All right, and then relax and put your feet down onto the ground. Lift your hips and give them a little shake. Release the block now. So no block, but feet on the ground. We're going to come back to that tabletop. Imagine you had a block between your thighs, between your knees, between your shins. And we're going to slowly tap your right heel down to the ground and bring it back to the reverse tabletop. And then tap the left heel down and bring it back up. And see what you can do to use your core, find the stability of this pose that runs through the outer hips and the inner thighs, but really originates in the core and pelvic floor. How's your breathing? Are you holding your breath while you're doing this? Can you keep breathing? Okay. And then rest a moment. We have one more thing to do, but first let's rest. Soles of the feet together. Let your knees fall out to the sides and just notice, you might notice that your inner thighs worked. This might feel like a good releasing stretch after what we just did. I hope so. Hands on low belly and breathe all the way there. Remember, we release as much as we engage. And then bring your knees back up. Okay. Elbows on the ground next to our ribs. You don't have to touch your ribs, but just be down there. Don't have your elbows wide. Okay. And then pick up your knees. Have your fingers be right in the same line as your elbows, like robot arms. And then bring your knees out to touch the finger pads. So that's how far apart you want to start this with your knees. Okay, and then bring your feet to touch. Okay. And then we're going to do some circles with the feet without letting the knees leave the touch of the hands. Okay, so you can do the circling, where there's it's a mirror, your left and right are mirrors of each other. And we're going to go both directions, so don't worry about whether you started circling one way or the other. Okay, but see if you can keep stable with your knees, gently touching the fingertips. Okay, we're not pushing, just having a place marker. And notice if your legs do the same thing. If your hip joints move in the same way, if you can even look at your feet. Like I'm noticing that my feet are not exactly symmetrical. Like I'm not exactly doing the same thing on both sides. So see what you can do to find that. And then we'll rest after a couple more rounds. Just do a couple rounds. And then when you're ready to rest, just bring your knees into your chest and have a little rocking. You can even put your feet down and drop your knees left and right. Nice and easeful. This is a lot of work for some recruitment of some stabilizing muscles that maybe you don't always use. So just notice here with your feet on the ground, are you a little fatigued anywhere unusual? So for me, my hip flexors feel this a little bit than my inner thighs. So where are you feeling it? Okay, now we'll come back again. Elbows down, knees come out to the finger pads, and then do your circles the other way. So if you started with your toes touching and you circled with your feet moving up and around and down and through, then go the other direction and just make sure you're going the other way. Okay, so whatever you did the first way,
And if you're not sure, just start circling. That'll be the way you did before, because it'll be your more patterned place. All right, so as you do this, try to pay attention to the range of motion in the hip joints. You know, it's not our fullest range of motion, like we could probably take our knees wider than this, but when you have a stable place and then you're rotating within that stable place, there's a lot of, we start to notice some changes or differences between our left and right. So slow circles. This doesn't have to be rapid fire. Notice if there's a place where your core kind of loses sight of what you're doing, or if you get shaky in a foot, or you start compensating in weird ways. Our pelvic floor, our core, our hip flexors, our outer hips, all this, there's so much recruitment of a lot of different things that help us with stability. All right, and then relax your knees out, soles of the feet together again. One more moment of Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana. A breath in, a breath out. All right, a little bit deeper of a range of motion now. Put your right foot on your left knee and come to a reverse pigeon pose. You can hold the back of your thigh or the front of your left shin, or you can, have one hand on your left knee, one hand on your right knee, and kind of roll around and mobilize. So just kind of find what your body wants. This is a lot more external rotation than what we just did. All right, and then we'll put the left foot down, grab your right foot, half happy baby pose. Just drop into some deep flexion. Okay. And then just have a little bit of range where we hold the right hand with the right foot with the right hand, drop down to a half happy baby. Pay attention to the pelvis. We're not listing to the side. And then cross that right foot over, hold it with your left, and press your right knee away from your chest. And we'll just go back and forth between that deep flexion and then the deep external rotation. All right, and then release that leg. Straighten the right leg all the way down and give your whole leg a little bit of a wobble. You can do both legs. A little bit of a wobble, left, right, left, right. And then we'll switch sides. So left foot on right knee. Reach back and grab onto your right leg somewhere, or you can hold your right knee and your left knee and kind of mobilize here a little bit and move around in circles, whatever feels good. Relaxing your head, breathing deep. All right, and then we'll release that right foot onto the ground. Grab onto your left foot, half happy baby pose, so dropping that left knee toward our ribs. Pay attention that you're not leaning to the left with your pelvis. We're still grounded. Okay, and then we're just going to go back and forth between compression in this deep flexion of the hip joint, and then grab onto the left foot with the right hand, cross that left foot over to the right. Left hand presses your left knee away. So moving into some pretty deep external rotation and then back to flexion. All right, so just back and forth, kind of getting into those deep places in the hips. And then we'll relax. Bring your knees into your chest, a little bit of rocking. Put your feet down, shift your hips over to the right, drop your knees left, and just find a full twist. Breath in, breath out. I know this is unusual to stay on the ground for most of the practice. Let's shift our hips the other way, knees up, drop to the other side. All right, and then we'll roll to our side. Come back up. Find your way to a full dog pose. Take a little time feeling your way here. Now you get to explore some movement. So pedal your feet if you'd like, kind of dropping one heel, get that fullness of the body. We've been really isolating a lot of center body stuff. Let's feel our edges, feel your hands, feel your feet move around. Full breaths here. Walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana, forward fold. Relax open into your hamstrings. Breathe deeply. Inhale for a halfway lift. Open up through your spine, femur bones up and back. Spread your feet. When your next exhale comes, relax and melt forward. Push through your feet, rising up, bring your arms to the sky, feeling that extension, open up through the heart. Let's cactus open our chest, enjoy the upper body involvement, and then exhale and round in. Okay. Inhale, arms up, big swan dive forward and fold. A halfway lift, expand open on the breath. Exhale, release to come down. Step the left foot back, come to a lunge. Ground yourself here, open the heart, and we'll start to bend and straighten the front knee. Just enjoying mobility, enjoying your breath. That physiological sigh that we had in the beginning. See if you don't have to do the double sip of inhale, but just let that exhale come all the way out. Take your hands onto the ground and step that front foot back, dog pose. Come forward into a plank. Ground yourself here. Lots of core. Notice your core. Is it wide awake here? Can you mobilize? Exhale a little more in core. Inhale, release the core a little bit. There's mobility in your body. All right, find the ground all the way to the earth. Roll the shoulders. Take a deep breath in, cobra, stretch open the front spine. Exhale, melting back down. Again, one more time. Opening up. Exhale to release again. Back onto all fours. Give some movement in your spine. And then we'll bring our left foot in front. Ground through your legs. Lift your back knee up off the earth. And we'll start to move here, bending and straightening the front knee. Enjoy opening up your legs. All right. Bring your back foot forward. Come to Uttanasana. And a halfway lift. Exhale and melt again. Push through the feet, rising up. Trace down through the center. Grab a block when you're ready and stick it now between your thighs, so high up, not at our shins or knees. Take a deep breath in and come to a chair pose. Find that stability that we were working with earlier in the pelvis. Reach arms up for a chair.
Notice if your ribs push out, see if you can find a little integration in the core, a little integration in your ribs, feeling the strength of your back. Release any tension in your neck. Put a little extra weight in your heels, draw your hips back, gentle hug of that block. Can you feel the pelvic floor and the core helping you in this pose? And inhale, standing up, release your arms, get rid of that block, step your left foot back, a lunge. Inhale, come on up to a crescent, arms coming up to the sky, look up, challenge your balance a little bit. Maybe you close your eyes a little bit, just see something that kind of gives your proprioception a chance to kick in. Interlace your hands behind your back. Open up through your heart. Pull your shoulders back. Try not to collapse into the lumbar spine, but use the pelvic floor. Imagine the block still between your legs. Use the core to give you support to open up your heart. All right, release your arms. Back foot comes forward, arms up. No block this time. Chair pose. Maybe hands to your heart. Maybe your arms are up. Maybe they're wide. What gives you the best sense of stability and strength? Is your breath still moving? Okay, and then we'll come up onto our toes, practicing a little balance here. Exhale, release your arms. Step your right foot back. Find your legs. Inhale, rise up, crescent lunge this side. A full breath, look up. See what it feels like to challenge your balance. Knit your ribs in. Just try not to compress into the low back. Hug to the imaginary midline with your legs so you're still imagining a block against your inner thighs, both legs. Root into your feet. And then we'll release our hands, interlace them the weird way. Open up through your chest. Heart expansive. Big breaths here. Root down. And then release your hands back to the dog pose. A full breath here. Forward into a plank. Lower yourself down. Maybe an up dog, maybe a cobra, maybe a different back bend. And then we'll find our way back to dog pose. Walk your feet forward. A halfway lift. Melting to relax. Push through your feet, rising up. Tracing through the center. Feel your feet on the ground. All right, let's take our legs wide apart. So turn sideways on your mat. So you've got some nice wide legs. And let's come down to a deep squat. Now you might feel, ooh, I'm a little fatigued in there from the work we did earlier. So just let those inner thighs kind of open up a little bit. And then stand on. Take a deep breath in. Come down to a goddess. Bring your arms anywhere you want. They can be on your legs. And remember, your goddess pose can be up here. It doesn't have to be down here. Try to find what feels self-sustaining. Ground into the four corners of your feet. And imagine you still had that support of the block between your shins, the block between your thighs. Give yourself that inner line to strengthen up into your pelvic floor and core. Use your feet. Connect the pelvic floor to the feet. All right, and then drag your toes, the toe beds toward the wall behind you, and the heels forward so you get a little of that external rotation engagement. And then we'll inhale and stand all the way up. Straight legs. Turn your right foot out. And let's find our way into Virabhadrasana 2. As you find Warrior 2, see if you can, remember the pose we did on on the ground with our elbows, and we put our knees out to our finger pads and we rotated the feet. Let's see if we can kind of find some of that hip strength that we found in that pose. Drop your shoulders, gaze out over your fingertips. So even though we're not rotating, we're not mobilizing the legs, they're very steady. Can you feel that work of opening up your knee, tracking that knee in line with the middle toes, finding the breath? And let's reverse the warrior reach, the arms up. And then find Parsvakonasana on this side. Stretch through your whole left side. Stay connected and grounded through your feet. Can you feel that external rotation? Maybe spin the jar lid of your right foot. So toe beds drag to the right, heel drags to the left. And then we'll come back up. Turn your feet straight and we'll adjust. And if you need a moment to bring your legs back to neutral, give them a little wiggle. Let your hips kind of relax in between your two sides. There's not much that we do during the day that does this deep external rotation of our femur bones. Most of the movement that we do through the day is kind of forward, backward motion. So enjoy the fact that you're kind of getting into these nooks and crannies of these stabilizing muscles in your hips. As we come into Virabhadrasana on this side, see what it feels like to ground yourself. Find both legs. So we want a sense of rooting. It's not just about the front leg. And once you feel that balance and stability, see what it feels like to open up the left knee, to track it in line with the middle toes. Do that work from the outer hip. And it doesn't matter, I'm a little higher on this side. My knee hurts if I go a little lower. So find where you're stable in your body. And then see what it feels like to drag the jar lid open. So we're dragging the left toes, toe beds, kind of drag them left. Nothing moves. It's just an isometric grip on the ground. And then the heel goes right. And just notice the light up that happens in your hip when you do this. Find your big breaths and your long exhales and the ease through your shoulders. And when you feel ready, you can reverse the warrior. Open up through your ribs. If you want to straighten your leg for a moment, you can. And then we'll find our way into Parsvakonasana on this side. So even though we're weight bearing now with our elbow, try not to sink and kind of collapse into the pose. Be bright in the body, root into the feet. Still move the foot like we just did. Toe beds go to the left, heel goes to the right. Open the heart, round through that back foot. When you feel ready, turn forward, feet forward, hands down onto blocks or onto the ground, wide legs. You can even turn your toes in if your hips cramp. And just enjoy some ease here. Straight legs, relax your head and breathe. Heel toe your feet in. I got one more standing pose to do. Okay. And then take a moment, maybe an Uttanasana, maybe toes in. Just let your hips relax a little bit and we'll come up to stand. And again, if you need a little shake out, do a little shake, do a little jump. Anything that's going to release your hips a little bit. Okay. All right, so we're going to come into figure 4. If you need to have help with balance, put your buttocks against a wall or a piece of furniture so you can do this pose with a little assistance if need be. Put your left foot on top of your right knee and come to that chair pose again, one-legged chair. Use your pelvic floor and your core. See if you can imagine that block still against your shins and your inner thighs and recruiting the pelvic floor. Try not to do weird things in the hips, pushing a hip forward or back. Stay stable. And then let that knee open up. Feel the external rotation of your hip as you drop into some deep flexion. Maybe your arms come up, maybe they stay at your heart. Just find the depths. Maybe you want to lean forward a little bit with a nice long spine. Okay, so just kind of find. Maybe you're going to bust out an arm balance. Okay, whatever is working for you. Okay, and then we'll come out of that pose. Put your foot down onto the ground. Have a moment with your two legs on the earth. Feel free to wiggle, jump, hop, swish, rock. Anything that releases. You can be very still too. Find your breath. And then we'll take the other side. So again, you can put your butt against a wall or against a piece of furniture. If balance is tricky for you, you can just kind of help yourself in that way. All right, so we'll cross now. Try not to let the hips stick out to the side or press forward. Try to stay neutral in your pelvis. Come down like a chair pose. Okay, you recruit from the feet all the way up into the pelvic floor and the core. Maybe the arms stretch. Maybe you can open up that hip, that external rotation a little bit deeper. Maybe you squat a little deeper and get into flexion of the hips a little bit more. Maybe you come forward with the spine nice and long. Whatever variations you're doing, make sure your pelvis stays nice and neutral. Recruit from the feet, both feet, up into the pelvic floor. How's your breath? All right. And then we'll lift that knee up. Put your foot down onto the ground. Pause for a moment. Return the breath if you lost it. And inhale, arms up to the sky. And exhale, floating forward. A halfway lift. Releasing back down. Come back to a dog pose. Feel some extension. Feel free to move your legs. If you want to internally rotate, you can, whatever feels right. And then we'll find child's pose. Drop into the deep compression of your hips. Let them be nourished and easeful. Relax through your pelvis, relax through your hip joints. All right. Come on to your back. Bring your knees into your chest. A little rocking, maybe a little twisting. Okay, you can kind of take, that feels good. Move your hips to the right, drop your knees left. Feel free to lengthen that top leg if you'd like, keeping your knees together. Just let your outer hips stretch a little bit here. Maybe your knees stay bent. Maybe you prefer to do the twist we did in the beginning, where you put your left foot on the outside of your right knee. So just kind of find the release in your hip that you're looking for in this pose. And then come back up. Shift to the other side and choose your twist. Maybe your knees stay together with your knees bent. Maybe you straighten the top leg and keep the knees together. Maybe you do the twist we did in the beginning where you
put your right foot on the outside of your left knee. Okay, so lots of choices. Just kind of find what's nourishing to your body. Find your breath again. And then we'll come out of that pose. If you have a bolster to put underneath your legs for Shavasana, I would recommend it for today. If you don't have a bolster, you can put a blanket on top of your blocks. Yeah. We're a little bit late on timing. I'm going to keep you a couple minutes past the hour. So, I'm just giving you a awareness of the time. So if you're on a schedule, be aware. And then rest your body in Shavasana. And see what you can do to soften through your pelvis, soften through your hips and your core. Remember that ease is just as important as strength. That we want the balance, we want the capacity to recruit when we need and to deeply relax when we can. Feel your belly fill and empty. Relax your body. Let's begin to deepen our breathing. And stretch and move your body in any way that's supportive. Find your way to your side. And then eventually kind of find an easeful way to transition up onto your hand, up onto your hand, and then up to a seat. As you find a comfortable seat, relax your legs, drop the weight of your femurs down, find that posture, that seated posture again, and breathe deeply. A long, steady exhale. Bring your hands to your heart. Let's offer our practice, our open heart outward. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.